Thank you very much for joining with me today. We have Durrain. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you. I feel like I'm in your parents' house by virtue of your background, which is like very like bringing up so many like fond nostalgic memories for me. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, can you just imagine that you're sitting at this dining room table with me, just talking about nothing, staring
Yes,
at the
that is
kitchen?
exactly what I can imagine. And I was thinking, like, knowing that I was going to chat with you today, I was like thinking of like all my fond memories in the Roar household. And I feel like so many were at that table.
Yeah.
And I feel like I cannot eat a box of macaroni and cheese without thinking of that table. And like, I have macaroni and cheese in my fridge right now because it's what my kids love to eat. And I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect. Like, I'm going to see Jackie and there's mac and cheese in the fridge. And yeah, so many fond memories of
Well,
your
thank you.
home and that table.
Thank you. That's very kind. I suppose I should quickly address for avid watchers of the pod, aka my mom and my sister, or the person. Yes, I do have a different background. I the perks of being unemployed is you can stay in a place a long time, and so I've been in California for a couple weeks. I'm gonna go back to Minnesota soon, but yeah, you might be seeing this background for a couple more times, but right now we are in California enjoying the sunshine. But I did want to give you and anyone listening a quick hot tip about mac and cheese. If you want to make it like a little bit fancier, instead
Yeah.
of using butter and milk, use unflavored Greek yogurt. Um,
Oh,
and then, I mean, like extra shredded cheese and like hot sauce if you're like really fancy. But yeah, it makes it
that
creamier.
sounds amazing. That sounds so good. My kids love yogurt, so I feel like they would totally be down for some extra scoops of yogurt in their mac and cheese. I love putting tuna in my mac and cheese,
Mm.
for the protein, and it's just great. But I like tried to suggest that when I made the existing mac and cheese in the fridge, and it was a hard no. Even though he loves tuna, like it's not like he doesn't like tuna, but he was like not in the mac, mom. So there's no tuna in that mac. I didn't eat any.
It is funny how like picky and like particular kids are because like you can feed them something one day and it's their favorite food and the next day they're like I hate this, and like you just say something of like you're like, oh, this is like, I read something somewhere that was like, tried to give my kid lasagna and they said no thank you, and you're like, oh, actually it's pizza noodles, and they're like, oh yeah, give it to me, and you're like, nothing has changed, just the name. Yeah.
I know. And like I'm pretty grateful. Like both the kids tend to eat like a wide swath of food, especially Kareem, who's older. Dean has his moments where he's just like, no. But yeah, it just like changes from day to day. Like who knows? But
Yeah,
anyways,
kids are great in a lot of ways, but they're also like infuriating in the same ways.
well, they're humans. And
Yeah.
so you're dealing with them and you're like, oh right, you're small, but you're still totally an opinionated human being.
Yeah, there are some days that you're like, I know I should eat an apple, but like I just don't want to. And like kids, of course, are the same way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I guess we should maybe just like say a little bit of how we know each other. You are my older sister's friend. I've known you for quite some time, so I appreciate you coming on. And I guess we talked about this
Known
before.
you since what? You were like 2
When did you meet Vicky?
when we were 5.
Okay, so then I would have been 1.
Oh, okay. So 1. I've known Jackie since she was 1, which is amazing. And we did Girl Scouts together because
Yeah,
I did Girl Scouts together. Anyway,
yeah.
sorry, I totally cut you off, but I was just thinking how amazing it is that I've known you as long as I have.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I was thinking of things that I wanted to say and to you and kind of stuff, and it was one of those things where I was like, ugh, like I can't pick one, and it's also going to be like it's not going to be summed up very succinctly, But we talked about this before we started, and it's only fair that we acknowledge what happened last week. Unfortunately, there was the riotous white supremacist mob attack on our capital last week. We do not support that in this place. We want everyone to feel safe and welcome and, a part of this world that we are. We do not support the hate or the violence that happened. I hope the appropriate measures will be taken out. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to say something super profound, but unfortunately, I just don't really have anything. But
I think acknowledging it acknowledging it is a big part of it, and just putting it there and saying that this is what happened. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And even thinking about, like, we think about how long we've known each other, and obviously if we've known each other for 30 something years, 9/11 was something that happened in the time that we've known each other. And for those of you, we obviously grew up together, and I identify as Muslim, and I'm pretty sure I was the only Muslim kid in my grade for a period of time, and in elementary school for, a significant portion of elementary school. So I think about, that, and how important it is that we do kind of cross these bridges and build these relationships with folks that are different than us, because then I think when we do that, it makes things like what happened on Wednesday less likely to happen. It dampens the impact of things that happen, like what happened on Wednesday. So I appreciate the conversation that we had, too, just acknowledging that it can be really hard when these ugly things happen in our country for a
Yeah.
different group of people for a variety of reasons.
Right. Yes. And I wanted to say, for anyone maybe who is white, this is something that I recently learned. Before this and other attacks, I was referring to these people and this as domestic terrorism. I recently learned that that is not the appropriate verbiage, because it ties back to Islamophobia and stuff that happened post 9/11. And so you should call it like white supremacists, a mob, violence, that kind of thing. But domestic terrorism is not the appropriate terminology. So if that helps anyone, great. That's something that I didn't know. And so this is a learning process. So we always appreciate that information when we can learn to use the right words to explain what happened.
And honestly, I didn't even know that either. And I am always curious when the word terrorism is used versus not, because oftentimes when it is used, it is when people who look like me or have my beliefs do certain things. And when people who don't look like me or don't have my beliefs do certain things, that word isn't used.
Yeah.
And so it is really important to think about the verbiage that we use and why we use it.
Yeah, and this is always like an ever evolving conversation. Like maybe right now it's not the appropriate terminology, but maybe later it will. And so yeah, so I'm working off the information. But let's let's pivot away from that, because it's supposed to be a distraction. This is supposed to be enjoyable. So one thing that we previously discussed, because a great thing happened on Wednesday before that, which is the Georgia runoff elections. Yay!
Yay! We have 2 new Democratic senators going to Congress, and it is amazing. The first Black Democratic senator from the South. And I want to say, I'm pretty sure I read in certain places that Senator Ossoff will be the first Jewish senator.
I think I heard that as well.
Yeah, so an amazing leap of progress. And, something that I was telling Jackie too was that I spent a good amount of time and energy and resources, phone banking and donating to the Georgia Senate races, and also to, the presidential election too. And so when things started looking good on Tuesday, I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. I had my Stacey Abrams shirt on, and I was like, yes, we can do this. We're going to do this. And I had decided on Wednesday, I dropped the kids off at my mom's place. And I was like, today is going to be my joy day. I am going to just be happy and joyful about this huge victory, particularly coming at a time when there are a lot of hard things happening in your face. I think there are always hard things happening, but
Yeah.
in our faces. And then Wednesday unfolded the way that it did. And I was like, our joy was stolen.
Yeah.
Our joy was taken. And I think it's so, so important to hold on to joy and to cultivate it every single day, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about when am I going to have my redo joy day, and really celebrate the huge accomplishment that is Tuesday.
Yeah. I don't know if you watch the show Dairy Girls, but I super recommend it. It speaks very much to this place in my life. well, also like this part of me that I probably will never lose, but like the 13, 14-year-old girl in me who's like so anxious and nervous about everything, but also like so excited about everything because like everything is new and you're like, oh my God, is this a lipstick? Is this going to change my life? Like still so optimistic about stuff. But it reminds me of this book series that I loved, which was Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging. So if anyone's a fan of that, hello, welcome. I'm a big fan. But the show Dairy Girls is on a streaming service called Schmetschmix. I try not to advertise on this show because nobody pays me. So, you know, no free advertising. Yeah. But it's on Schmetschmix. And it's just like these teen girls, they're growing up in the time of the Troubles, so you know, the 90s. But there's this great episode in the second season where a new teacher comes and they like all fall in love with her, and you know, she's exciting and exotic and does things differently, and they're like, oh my gosh. And so they hang out with her, and then they all start doing like their eye makeup like her. And so the next day they're walking through school and they're just like flipping their hair and like, you know, pointing to everyone like, oh, so cool. And it's just like this great moment of like wonderful, just like teenage energy. And I was like, this is the energy that I'm taking today, and this is who I am. And then very quickly it went away. I was like, never mind, we're putting this away and we're holding on to that for another time. But
yeah, hold on to it and open it on another day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put it into a reusable container and then, you know, put it on the shelf and we'll open it another day.
Yes, open that Tupperware another day when you feel like you can open it and have the space.
So what are some things that you do, you know, when we can reopen this Tupperware? What would you do?
Yeah, the Tupperware of joy. I mean, I think that joy can be small, and I think that joy can be large. And obviously, like, take it, you know, two Democratic candidates winning election and going to the Senate and, you know, shifting the balance of power is, to me, a pretty big source of joy. But I think those little sources of joy are also really important, and particularly in a pandemic. You know, for me, the little source of joy, obviously, like, you know, FaceTiming with a friend during dinner and like propping my phone up while we're all sitting and eating, and so it's almost like they're sitting and having dinner with us. Like, that's so fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like doing arts and craftsy type things. And so I have like my little embroidery that I'm like attempting to work on, and my brush lettering that I'm attempting to work on. And I love making cards. And so I do a lot of making cards and, you know, sending them to people to spread the joy. Cause I feel like that's the thing I think with joy. Sometimes I think about, and I'm sure there's like a whole body of research, so this is not scientifically backed what I'm about to say, but you know, joy versus happiness, like sometimes I think happiness comes from like external things, you know, the like hit of dopamine that you get with that like slice of chocolate cake or whatever, whereas like joy is like that internal like goodness, like when you think about joy, it like comes from within. And so I think words can be really joyful. So I'm a firm believer in like telling people, whether it's via FaceTime or a card or whatever, you know, that you love them, that you miss them, that you're thinking of them, particularly in these times. I think that is a way that I like to both bring myself joy and hopefully spread joy.
Yeah, I think that is wonderful. That also kind of ties into one of the segments that I have on this, I don't know, vlog, webisode. I don't know. Who am I? I don't know. But it's called Pass the Cheese, where I compliment the guest. And as we alluded to earlier, I've known you for quite some time, so you know, I have quite a wealth to pull from. I think, other than my sister, the person that's known me the longest that's come on here. But as you were a friend of my older sister, and I always, you know, very much wanted to be older and be cooler and like hang out with these people. And so I definitely like forced myself upon her friends a lot of the time. And I also like, I remember very vividly, I think you all were in high school and I was like going with you, you know, to the city, and, you know, someone was talking on a cell phone and they're like, oh yeah, it's Vicky, Durrain, you know, these other people and Vicky's little sister. And I was just so insistent. I was like, my name is Jackie. And like, I have a name. And you were always somebody who like respected that, you know, like, yes, you were Vicky's friend, but you also like treated me like I was my own, you know, individual person, and respected that aggressive choice that I made at such a young age. So yeah, thank you very much. Like, I think that speaks very highly of, you as a teenager, because I was not a great teenager. And so the fact that you were like being wonderful, like back then, thank you.
You're so sweet. Thank you for saying that, Jackie. And even I was thinking, I was like I imagine that some people like look back and think of like other people's younger siblings as annoying or whatever, but I have no annoying Jackie memories. Like, let us put that on the record. I have zero annoying Jackie memories. Like, I always like remember Jackie being cool and like, Vicky's like maybe on the more quieter side, like obviously not with her friends, but like Jackie was like on the less quieter side. And we had so much fun and we had like things in common and barbecues and A's games and Girl Scouts and reading. And there's just so much that we had. Yeah, we just had so much fun. So I have no negative Jackie memories from our childhood, only positive ones.
Thank you. That is very, very kind. I recognize not everybody, especially my sister, will probably say the same. So it's appreciated. I will take it anywhere I can get. I I recognize I have a certain personality type. It's not for everyone. So thank you. I also remember my fifth grade birthday. It was the peak of this obsession that I had with smiley faces. You and Moran. I mean, I guess we can say her name. I don't know. Like, I never know like how much of people's identity I should release, but my sister has a friend named Moran, and she came to my fifth grade when I was in the fifth grade, my birthday. Anyway, you both gave me like smiley face gifts, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I have arrived. Like, this is the greatest.
So sweet. And I have no recollection of that. Oops. I'm glad that past Durrain was so thoughtful. I'm sorry that current Durrain has a really bad memory, but that makes me so happy to know.
I think it's very possible that like you and Moran went on a gift together. I think that's what happened, and I'm pretty sure it was a smiley face alarm clock. That like, yeah. I mean, the fact that I remember it, obviously,
Yeah.
like, I think that it's this. But I could probably like physically tell you like in great detail what it looked like. Um, but it also is kind of a great point. Like, I recognized like pretty early on, um, and maybe I don't know if this goes in part with it, or if this is just whatever, but like I have struggled with anxiety and depression for a very long time in my life. I think a lot of people have as well, and I will say at some points, I am better with it than others, but I was words of affirmation is a love language of mine. And so, who doesn't love when someone says like, "Hey, you got a great sweater," or like, "Oh, your smile is so beautiful." So I always try and make a really like, well, I shouldn't say try and make a really big effort, because I know that that sounds like, oh, it's like pulling teeth, but like when I think of someone and I think of something that they would like, I let them know, or I tell them, or I'm like, oh, hey, I had this like, I saw this and it made me think of you, and like it made me think of this memory that we had together. I think especially now, those are like really important that we tell people, and unfortunately, said that I don't want to talk about the pandemic, but we are kind of in times where we don't know when the next time we're going to see somebody is, and if you just tell someone like how much they mean to you, like that's wonderful, and for a while I was trying to like every day compliment like someone new, and if I didn't know them, I was like, that just gives me bonus points, like just kind of in my head of like, good job, Jackie, like you made someone you don't know's day. Obviously that's a little bit harder now that we're not out and about in the world, but if maybe like once a week, if you give someone a compliment, like that's great. Who doesn't love that?
Totally, pass the joy. I
Yeah.
think, obviously joy and positive psychology tie into health and well-being. And for those of you who don't know, I teach health classes at Diablo Valley College, which is a local community college where Jackie's parents and I live. And yeah, we talk about how much like the positive mindset, optimism and resilience and hope and joy make a difference like physically in your health. And that's only emphasized now even more tenfold during a pandemic. And I think, joy impacts us both like in our physical health, but also it helps us like love ourselves. And like that's really important. And I think you love yourself so that you then have space and capacity to love other people. And that's like it's not an exact quote, but there's an author, her name is Cleo Wade, and she has written a book. I think it's called Heart Talks. She's written multiple books, but the book I'm talking about is called Heart Talks. And I know we're not supposed to do advertising, but I just wanted to give credit
No,
where
no, no,
credit was
please
due.
do. This seems like a worthy one. Please do.
I was like, it's not me. I don't want to take credit, but
I mean,
yeah,
like
she talks about
multi-million-dollar companies, like I don't need to advertise. Like you're fine, you know?
an author. And yeah, she talks about how like self-love is the way that we end up fueling ourselves so that we can then fuel our love for other people. And I think we need, as cheesy as this is going to sound, but cheese is part of the theme of your show. So
Yeah.
cheesy, is that we need more love, right? And so if we're promoting joy in ourselves and doing the things that bring us joy and trying to, pass that joy to others, we're also bringing in and increasing our own self-love, which then, overflows and fills to other people. And I think that's so, so important.
Yeah, I really I loved what you said earlier about happiness versus joy, because that's not really even something that I even like kind of considered or thought about. But someone was also kind of pointing out, I was watching something, or everything just all kind of blends together these days. But someone was pointing out, like, in your cup of joy or your cup of happiness, or however you define it, if you're half full, and someone keeps asking from you, you're going to keep draining, and you're going to keep getting lower and lower. So you need to take care of yourself, however that is, before you can do that, And I also want to say, like, I recently learned about toxic positivity. And so we don't want to promote toxic positivity. If you feel a little sad or feel not as great, like, feel free to express those emotions however you need to. But yeah, like, you can look for other ways to find joy in your life. And that's something that also, like, me being here, like, I've been very isolated, by myself for the last 9-10 months. And so being here has been really great in a lot of ways. And, it physically has offered me like the ability to go outside in January, because it's like 14 degrees in Minnesota right now in certain places. Not quite as fun to be outside. What was that?
I was like, I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry for all the Minnesotans who are watching this that I just laughed at.
I mean, we are aware of the situation and how, it's not fun to be outside in that temperature, But something also that I was like trying to do is, I really like adventuring. I love adventures, big and small. And so something like a couple weeks ago, I saw something and I was like, this is such an easy thing for me to accomplish, because I don't feel confident in my like handy skills, like fixing or building or anything like that. And so I'm trying to become better about that. So I saw something that I wanted to make, and it, to get the supplies for it, I had to go like antique stores and stuff and salvage yards. And it was so fun. And I was like, this is in my own city, and I never would have come here and like if I hadn't done this project. And so, like, especially like when I'm here, I've been looking for ways to do that. So there's something that I really like called Atlas Obscura. It's something that's like like not your touristy place, stuff that locals only know, but it is super cool. And anytime I go to a city, I look up the city or a country, I look up what they have. So they have a book. There's also a website that you can type in. But me and my best friend, I looked up like funky buildings around San Francisco, and we did a little walking tour. It was like an hour thing. And I was like, I can tell you about it. Like, let's go here and then let's walk 15 minutes here. And it was so fun. So that's something I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that is so fun. And I do think our current circumstance is, forcing us, nudging us, encouraging us, whatever verb you want to use, to kind of be creative
Yes.
with what are the things that bring us joy. And I actually think that's okay. Like, I think it's okay for us to try these new things, because you just never know when you're going to discover that thing that you're like, hey, I wish I'd known about this sooner. I want to do this forever.
Right.
And so that's really cool that you discovered like cool, funky houses in SF to do a walking tour. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
For our whole lives,
Yeah, I know. It's something also, like, when you live in a city, and especially like in the Bay Area, I feel like there are so many iconic, maybe this also because I grew up here, you know. But there are
Right.
so many iconic places that you, as somebody who lives here, don't go to. You go to when your friends who come out of town or your family come to visit, and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess we should go across the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, I just see it all the time. Like, I never really walk across it, but when people are in your town, and so that's been kind of fun. And, you know, we can't do a lot of traveling right now, you know, like for several different circumstances. You know, if you are in a space or, you know, feel safely, great. But this is also a way to kind of get out and do something different for me, at least, you know, like I only have to drive 10 minutes as opposed to like flying 14 hours and being jet lagged for the next 3 days. Like it's a different, smaller adventure. And, you know, like right now, like that's kind of what we're working with. So, you know, it doesn't have to be like this huge declaration or anything.
Totally. Yeah. With adventures, with joy, I feel like it is really just about figuring out like what you can do within your realm of possibilities and your immediate possibilities. And however small, or you don't feel like it today and you put it in that Tupperware and you revisit it another day, that is okay too.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say something and I totally forgot.
I
Oh,
felt like you were
I was just kind of like, we are, oh my gosh, I like had it and it's slipping away. Oh, like this like project, like it's not about something being perfect. It's not about like everything being 100% every time. You know, I right now am in a one piece jumpsuit kind of thing because I didn't feel like dressing like real clothes today. You know, like it it's not like it because I know especially like with social medias, like things in a lot of ways look perfect and it's really hard to obtain that, especially when you don't have that joy in your life. And so you see something and you know, I can only speak from experience, but you're like, oh, I could never do that because this is perfect this way. And that's just, you know, I just can't do that. And so there's no way that I can have whatever that joy or that happiness looks like. And so like this, like a lot of this is loosey goosey. A lot of this is, you know, just like trying your best kind of thing, you know, and if you can do it, great, but if not, that's okay too. And so, yeah, so if making like a fairy house in your backyard is like as far as you can go, that's great. I love a fairy house. I only say fairy house because I saw somebody do that and I really want to do it.
I was like, that sounds amazing. Can I go to whoever's fairy house this was? I will visit a fairy house.
Yeah.
But your point about perfection, I think is also, it just made me think, I think as someone who often finds myself having perfectionist tendencies, it's something that I'm trying to consciously work on a lot.
Mhm.
And as someone who is like interested in racial justice and social justice, like understanding that perfectionism has its roots in white supremacy definitely has like helped me be more aware of like what am I perpetuating when I'm trying to perpetuate perfectionism or trying to achieve perfectionism.
Mhm.
And so that has definitely like helped me unpack it and sort of realize that like imperfection is human. It's normal, it's not less than in any way, and like to also like consciously make sure we're celebrating that. I think you know ties into the adventure thing, ties into the joy thing. Like let's all strive for imperfection. I think the world would just have a whole lot less stress.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and I also um I really like imperfections. I know this is like kind of off topic, but for me, it's very prevalent because it's something that I work on regularly. But physical appearance is obviously huge in our society in a lot of different ways, you know, and aesthetics. And I love imperfections in other people or what are defined as imperfections, you know, whether it be freckles, moles, like discolorations of skin, you know, just various different things because it makes you unique and it makes you your story, you know, and it makes you beautiful like who you are because you don't look like a copycat person. Like I kind of have a face that just looks like a generic white girl, you know? So like, but for like a lot of people, like in a lot of ways, like I've been uh, appearance, what's it? I don't know the best way to say this without it being like, I'm told that I'm beautiful all the time because I'm definitely not. But like, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, like relatively straight hair, like people are told that that is the perfection of beauty and that's what you can strive for, you know? And I'm not gonna like, I don't want to say here at all that I'm like, I'm the most beautiful woman in the world and like my life is so hard, but like there are so many more what I think interesting things in other people that people feel bad about. And like, I mean, I even have like a mole on my back that for a really long time I was self-conscious about. And I was just like, it's a fucking mole. Like who, like what? Like why do you think that you're unattractive because you have a mole on your back? But because like society airbrushes and you know like does all this stuff, and I'm not gonna, I don't need to get on my soapbox about you know that, but imperfections are great and beautiful and wonderful because they make you different, and they make you special, and they make you different than anybody else. And I don't know, I think that should be celebrated.
Yes, I totally agree. And yeah, and you know, it also crosses so many dimensions. Like you were talking more about like looking at, you know, holding ourselves to this like impossibly high, not even real
Right.
standard of beauty. But in anything that we do, in any dimension, there's always this certain standard that's perpetuated. And it's usually created by like whoever holds more power and whoever is in dominance. And then everyone else is, you know, less than. And I think we have to work really hard to, I mean, I think even just being aware that that's happening, like what is the standard, who created it, and how did it get to be the standard?
Mhm.
Uh, and then we can start unpacking and creating other, you know, attainable and achievable versions that need to be celebrated.
Yeah, I know. I know that I myself can get, I guess this is also like my second segment, like whine about it, like, you know, whining about the beauty industry or whatever, or this like pursuit of perfection that we're told to have. But um, sometimes I can get really wound up and like, you know, kind of have tunnel vision where I like see something and I'm like, oh, like I don't look like that or I don't have this. If you just take a step back, you're like, wait, first of all, do I even want to look like that? Second of all, like, is that even possible for me to look like that? Like, do I have like, no, I'm German, so I'm stocky and I'm stout. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna have twig legs. That's what I wanted to say.
Twix.
Like,
You
they're
could
gonna.
have Twix. Twix would be good.
I would eat my legs if they were Twix legs because I would just be so hungry and it would be hard not to, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
and also like the person who tells me that that's the way I'm supposed to look, like, do I even like why do they get to decide, you know?
That's their agenda.
Yeah. Do I even respect what they have to say? Like, no. So yeah, like I know that there's been a whole lot of recently, like a whole lot of uh backlash against Harry Styles like wearing a dress and people calling him not a man. And it's just like, yeah.
I was, I literally was like, why? Like, why do you care? Why does there are so many things happening in the world right now? And even if none of those things were true, it still doesn't. Harry Styles can wear whatever Harry Styles wants to wear.
Yeah. You want to know a quick, easy fix? If you don't like what he's wearing, don't look at him.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't Google him.
move on by. Or look at the hundreds of other photo shoots that he has done where he's not wearing this outfit. Or, like, you know, worry about your own attire. You know, if you don't like this person wearing a dress, okay, cool. Worry about yourself. Move
Right,
on.
worry about yourself. Yeah, it was yeah, I remember reading that. I think I actually might try and incorporate that into my class this semester because we do a module on, you know, gender and sexual identity and sexual orientation and all of that stuff. And um obviously we like are in the Bay Area, which is supposed to be this super liberal, progressive, like hub and bubble. Whether it is or not, it can be another episode. But I think that, you know, it's really important to understand that like these aren't problems of the past. It's not like we've all become enlightened and, you know, we're all still growing. There's so much work to do.
Mhm.
But I like tying in kind of more contemporary examples. So I think I was going to bring in that Harry Styles example into my class this semester.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, if you don't like it, that it doesn't have to be a thing that you have to worry about. That's a pretty
Yeah.
easy fix, right? Like, it's also very interesting when people, I think also with like the internet, we're also like over half an hour by the way, so I'll try and wrap this up quick.
I was like, should I stop talking?
No, 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 never. Um, But, with social media and with, the internet, we have access to everything and, so many things all at the same time. And we are also able to say things that that we might not say to a person's face. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Like, I think that sometimes you can have a better relationship with somebody because sometimes there are things that are too scary to say to someone's face. And so doing it over, typing or text, that can be easier. So in some ways it is very good. It's also more accessible for some people, depending on, their disabilities or their impairments. So that's really wonderful. But it also makes people not afraid to say things that are probably not good things and nice things to say to our friends. And so, like, the fact that somebody will have to like search for your video for somebody that says and say like I hate you, it's like, well, you don't have to watch this. This isn't for you. Or like
Doesn't concern you.
like go on someone's social media page and be like, I hate everything you stand for. Like, what? Why? Okay, don't look at this person then.
Mhm.
Do they come to you every single day? No, you can easily avoid this person. It's very easy. So
Yeah, I think, and I think about this sometimes when I read books to the boys. They're little, 4 and 2, and so I read these books and I'm trying to instill like kindness and empathy and non-judgmentalness into them now. And I'm like, sometimes I read those books, I'm like, yo, adults need to reread these books because they got some good lessons, and a lot of people have forgotten. Like,
and they break it
we
down for like a basic level.
yeah, just like real basic, real to the point, like what is being kind? Like, let's all remember to be kind.
Right.
um, yeah, so I want to figure out how we like revisit children's books as adults, as like a national movement to try and remind ourselves like what we were taught when we were 4 and 5, because I do think that would make a difference now.
Yeah.
And some of those people who make some of those comments can be occupied doing other things.
Yeah. Imagine if you took that energy and you put it to something different. It might be a better use of your time, you know?
Might
And
be.
I think a lot of those people need to find their inner joy and their happiness.
I do. I do. I think that all the time. And I think about, yeah, just the power that joy has in making people feel like they belong. And I think we all want to feel ultimately like we belong. And some people have historically felt like they belong and others haven't, and things are changing, and that scares people.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I think we really do need to think about that joy and that kindness, and how we create belonging.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Is there anything you want to bring awareness to at the end of this?
I don't think so. Wear a mask. That's like all I want to say. Please just wear a mask. I'm a public health person. I teach health classes. Like, please just wear a mask. It's really
Yeah,
good.
it is inconvenient, but it's also like so easy. And if I can save even one person by wearing a mask, that seems like a win to me. But you know what? You're probably not saving one person. You're probably saving upwards of, I don't know, 10, 50. Tell yourself you're saving 1,000 lives by just
Yeah.
wearing one mask.
Mhm. Yeah, just wear a mask to save lives.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's so easy. Who doesn't love saving lives?
Put it on your resume. Freaking put mask wearer lifesaver on your resume.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's great. Well, thank you very much, Durrain. We really appreciate your time and everything you've taught with us and shared with us.
Thanks so much, Jackie. So great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.